Alright, so hello ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between. I'm Amanda, and today we are going to be continuing Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. So, let's get going because last time so there was a lot of intrigue boiling and maybe Sophie isn't exactly as she seems. And you know what? Emily may not show up to challenge us on our love for Kadir. So there's that as well. You gain as you have. Oh, I guess I missed the first section. You have these past few nights in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, the sky bereft of sunlight, and then it hits you. The hunger. Our love for him will never die. No, it will not. It will live on forever. I will fight everyone who wants to come for me about that. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. Oh, so Andre, something that you missed, we will tell how hungry we are by the blood on the side of the screen. So right now, I think she's actually okay in terms of hunger. I think she can sate it, but we'll see how it goes on this evening. You lock the apartment behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you gonna do? Get in touch with your boss? He's probably looking for you, if only to scold you for the unattended files piling up on your desk. But what's he gonna do? Call the cops? Ugh, not worth the hassle. You know, that's really sad that she doesn't have anyone that really cared for her. But now I guess that's kind of the point. You're almost hoping a few coworkers that seem to give a shit about you were faking it. It would make things easier. A fresh start from the ground up, just like old times. These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as the thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard, and you're led into the elevator. Apparently, Ms. Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait, patiently, as the footsteps on the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, lets you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Oh. Everything all right? Am I interrupting something? Good evening, Sophie. Oh, yeah, that's fine, Andre. We'll be here for 2 more hours, so it's all fine. So here's something that I learned for the rest of you. I did some research on Clan Ventru, and the thing about them is what they call dignitas, and that's your dignity, and that means your face, how you present yourself to the world, and how polite you are. So I think instead of saying everything all right, I should say, am I interrupting something? Even though she did ask us to come over, I mean, she still looks like her mind isn't quite there yet. Hey, am I interrupting something? She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and looks at you with strangely bleary eyes. Is she crying or something? Yes, you are. But that's all right. I've been meaning to ask you something. When you look out at this city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. The lights and rain, the relentless honking below, music blasting from a nearby window, echoing off of buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. I'm pretty sure someone already has. They do that, like someone created like 1800s London as an ambient piece on YouTube. 1800s London with rain on cobblestones. Titles like that, you can find them on YouTube. Other than that though, it's business as usual. Sights, sounds, smells, you know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed, somehow, but she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies that the world offers. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meaning even in the mundane. Yes, that's actually something that I also looked up, because I looked up Clan Toreador because I know Kadir is a Toreador and Sophie is a Toreador. So I researched them and they said that Toreadors can sometimes be like motionless, staring at a sunrise, or just be so enraptured by the beauty of something that they would just stop and be immobile for like an entire turn, because, well, they were referring to like the tabletop RPG kind of games. They were like, that was one of the weaknesses for the Toreador clan. But a weakness for Clan Ventrue is that they are so particular, because not everyone can become a Ventrue, but they are so particular that if you were playing the tabletop game, you had to specify what kind of blood that you could drink. So that is probably why our character can't drink all the blood, like just any old blood. So you had to specify you like young men, young women, virgins, Italians, blah blah blah. You had to specify which kind of groups. That's a weakness for Clan Ventrue. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have the roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my clan as well. Yeah, that's Kadir. Although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir. It breaks my heart to see him in this state. Yeah, I wonder what's up with him, because he doesn't usually... I don't know, maybe we'll figure out what kind of attributes he displays, or she'll tell us. Still, there is beauty to it as well. Nothing like a good fall from grace. What is she talking about? Fall from grace? Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventrue, known for their pride and proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion, while being slaves to their own temper. We won't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. What's my clan? How can I tell a kindred's clan? Clans stick together, right? So we already know that we're Clan Ventrue. I think I'll ask her how I can tell a kindred's clan, and I know that sometimes clans, just from playing other games, sometimes clans don't necessarily stick together. It really depends. So I'm gonna say, how can I tell a kindred's clan? Say I meet a vampire for the first time. How can I tell what their clan is? Usually you cannot, with a few exceptions perhaps. For some clans, the uniqueness I mentioned bleeds into their appearance or disposition. But even that can be misleading. Yeah, like, you can tell when someone's a Nosferatu. You can tell. Outside of a few very specific cases, knowing one's clan is less important than understanding who they are personally, what drives them, their wants and needs, weaknesses too. Speaking of which, we come to the reason I wanted to speak with you tonight. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves, or are mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. Or should I look for allies? Do you have your own coterie, or what if I want to go alone? I'm gonna say, where should I look for allies? I don't particularly care if Sophie has a coterie. I think she has. I don't think she would tell us, be honest with us anyway. Any suggestions on where I should start looking? I was just about to get to that. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent much of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide, lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course. More or less. Okay, who are they? Thanks, I guess you're choosing friends for me. I'm gonna go with the third one, just because, again, I think Sophie has her own motivations here, and I think that would help us kind of understand what they are, possibly. Wait, you're choosing friends for me now? Is this like a playdate thing? Okay, that came off a bit more condescending than I anticipated, but okay. Don't try to get clever with me, darling. Think of it as a gift. One you can put to good use or squander entirely. Either way, you're welcome. Yeah, that was very good. I shouldn't have done that. So let us start with the Tremere. They are a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. Blood sorcerers? Flash back to one of those nights when your ex would stay up late playing video games. Not a pleasant conversation. Sophie snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae, their own, as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. Oh, Agathon! Wait a minute. Oh! Now I remember, in Shadows of New York. Now I remember. Yeah, so I guess all the people on that list that Julia had are going to be my coterie in this game. Oh, I have been bamboozled. I have been bamboozled.
So, I've been bamboozled. Oh my.
From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. Okay, so if I had played this game before Shadows of New York, I guarantee that I would have probably played Shadows of New York a completely different way than I did. magic intriguing, a scholar sounds boring, a chance to meet an important person. Okay. I'm probably going to say the third again, just keeping my clan and what her goals might be in mind. So by getting to know this Agathon, I can get closer to someone higher up the ladder? Yes, though not immediately, I would imagine. Aisling finds herself in a somewhat precarious position, both in the city and her clan. Every move she makes is heavily scrutinized. Thus, she has learned to tread lightly. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their workshops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. Oh. Is this going to be Kaiser or something? That would be interesting. The way she said it, you're pretty sure it should mean something to you. Other than sounding foreign, it doesn't ring any bells. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings, and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took an even more sickly color. Oh, I mean, she did say she was sensitive to ugliness. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he's no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo. Oh, D'Angelo. I didn't realize he was a Nosferatu, but then again, we couldn't really see his face in Shadows of New York. And he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me. The ones with the awful furniture. IKEA. Of course, what, IKEA? An office? What connections does he have? Yeah, it's definitely IKEA. I'm gonna say connections. What connections does he have? Just because I think that's the most useful. And that's more to the point for our character. You mentioned this D'Angelo has some useful connections. I was just getting to that. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden. The kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with Pine murders, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. Oh, he's probably the contact that helped Kadir figure out there was that I was sired, I should say. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic? As if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are not a wild clan, in touch with their beast in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are a few exceptions. Oh yeah, because Beckett was a Gangrel. Nominally, they haven't been part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades, but the one kindred I would like you to meet has a strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Yeah, I should have played this game before Shadows, or maybe not. We'll see what happens. Because Julie didn't have any idea about this either, so again, we'll see. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999. The very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings still reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. Anything more about Tamika? You mentioned siblings. Should I contact non-Camarilla clans? I think I'll ask more about Tamika, because I think just doing that we'll hear more about her siblings anyway, and her relationship with them, maybe. You seem to know a lot about her sire, but is there anything else you can tell me about Tamika? I asked around. Out of all of Jezebel's childer, Tamika is known to be the most rational and cool-headed, at least for a gangrel. That said, she's likely to have a unique way of appraising your worth. I cannot say how exactly, but you should be prepared for an interesting conversation at the very least. Then again, that could be said of almost every kindred in this city. There's that mysterious smile again. So you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational, if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcoming change of pace. Yeah, because Tamika was a lot more straightforward, which is kind of cool. But speaking of change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's one I don't make likely. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. Oh gosh, does this mean I'm gonna have to see Carter again? Because Carter is Hope's sire. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable, and that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves, and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. She doesn't sound like my type, don't say that. An internet cafe, quaint. Where did you learn about Hope? I'm gonna say the third one. I feel like the other two are a bit rude, and I don't want to come across that way. Where did you learn about her exactly? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented and tapped into the current fads of mankind. Not something I am personally interested in, as I am sure you know by now. I take his word for it, at any rate. Oh my gosh, it's probably friggin' Carter. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. Oh wow, she gives us an apartment and a car. A new car, that's great. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car. A decent-looking, if not luxurious, ride. Stay safe, Amanda. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had the past few nights. A blessing or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in your hand, you consider your next move. Ooh, this is good! We get to pick! Okay. So just off the bat, I am curious about Agathon and D'Angelo, just because I liked their I don't know, but Tamika, I don't know. I like Tamika as well, too. But I don't know. Just off the bat, some things tell me I should go for Agathon and D'Angelo first. But let's see. It's kind of magic is Agathon's? Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into the bizarre powers of the Tremere. Searching for Hope. Sophie suggested you meet Hope, a reclusive member of the Malkavian clan she supposedly holed up in an internet cafe in Lower Manhattan. Gumshoe in the Dark. A recent string of violent killings has the Red Hook district of Brooklyn on edge. Sophie mentioned that Kadir al-Asmai has a secret associate investigating the murders. A Nosferatu neonate by the name of D'Angelo. If you help him out, he might be persuaded to form a lasting partnership. Okay, that actually sounds interesting just because I like the murder mystery aspect of it too. Jezebel's Childer. Sophie mentioned a gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Ferals aren't exactly a social bunch, even by kindred standards. But if you can keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough, she might be persuaded to join you. I'm gonna go for D'Angelo first. Just because, I mean, his just sounds the most interesting, and I like a good mystery, so here we go. As you make your way down Clinton Street, the incessant hum of traffic gives way to the ominous silence of the waterfront. You stop to take in the familiar bouquet of the Hudson, made all the more potent by your recently sharpened senses. Across the basin, the Red Hook grain terminal rears its rusty frame. Once a bustling industrial area, now a sleeping giant splayed out on the riverbank, forgotten, abandoned. Conveniently so, especially for one of the hidden. Keeping in the shadows, you sneak closer to the dilapidated complex, making your way past hole-ridden silos and wobbly chain-link fences. Charming. By the time you reach the entrance to the main building, you can almost feel the rust particles making themselves cozy at the back of your throat. Not getting your hopes up, you give the door a slight nudge. To your surprise, it gives almost instantly. Looks like someone's been using it recently. Once inside, you find yourself in a large, empty hall. Looking around, you can almost picture it back in its heyday, stacked to the rafters with heavy machinery. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine, most likely an office space. And then you see it, a faint light coming from one of the upper rooms. Looks like you're in luck. Quietly, with bated breath, you climb the steps and approach the dimly lit room. The door creaks open, revealing what looks like an old-timey detective's office, complete with crooked window blinds, an overflowing ashtray, and papers scattered across a wooden desk. Oh yeah, they really did go for Gumshoe with this one. Suddenly, it hits you, that nagging feeling. This is all too convenient, too inviting. Before you can react, the trap is already sprung. A plume of cigar smoke wafts over your shoulder. The barrel of a gun rubs against your spine. A raspy voice whispers in your ear. Let me guess. Took a wrong turn at the third silo? Attempt to talk down the assailant, rush the assailant, and make him stand down. I'm not going to try forcing my blood powers on him. I think that if we talk to him, he'll listen. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to get too hungry either. I don't think he's going to really hurt us. You decide to play along. Raising your arms, slowly, you weigh your next words carefully. You're pretty sure a bullet to the back won't kill you, but it doesn't sound too pleasant either. So, this isn't Bloodsuckers Anonymous. Let's not do anything rash. How about we talk like civilized kindred? Gosh, I'm trying to think. See, I think he would go for a bit of a joke. I think he would. It's not like he's fussy. Like, it's not like we can be sarcastic with him in a way that we can't do with the other members of the Umbrella. You mean this isn't Bloodsuckers Anonymous? A noise rattles behind your head, like someone shook a can full of gravel. It might have been a chuckle, but your guess is as good as anyone's. Wise guy, huh? Luckily for you, I have a soft spot for wise guys. Okay, good. So I'll give you a chance to explain yourself. In a strange interplay of light and shadow, the stranger reappears behind his desk. Seeing him in his full, for lack of a better word, glory, you can't help but smirk. This is the dreaded Nosferatu? The way Sophie described them, you were expecting some grotesque monstrosity. But this guy, the clothes, the swagger, the hard-boiled detective routine, it all comes across as a bad joke. Still, when it comes to appearance, his lineage is undeniable. From 30 feet away, he could probably pass for a bum with a nasty skin condition. From 5 feet away, he looks like something made to be seen from 30 feet away. He leans back in his chair, casually pointing his gun at you. So, what brings you to my humble office? I'm gonna say the Red Hook murders just because that's what he's trying to do. And again, I think if we help him, his hat says no. That's kind of cute. I'm not gonna say I'm looking for a Nosferatu. I'm not gonna say, are you D'Angelo? I'm just gonna be interested in the murders. I think that's what would pique his interest the most. I'm here about the Red Hook murders. Yeah, that. Nasty business. What's it got to do with me? A lot if you ask Kadir. I know who you work for. I'm not gonna be I know who you work for. I'm just gonna name drop Kadir. A lot, apparently. At least Kadir seems to think so. His expression sours. Not a name you want to casually toss around, kid. But hey, I get it. You're not some random schmuck who wandered in here off the street, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Name's D'Angelo. Gin to my friends. So you can call me D'Angelo. Who I work for is less important. What I'm working on, however, isn't going so well, so let me help. I know I'm here to help. I'll toss that name all day. Yes, I will. He is my baby. I love him. Do that. I know I'm here. I think I'm gonna say I know I'm here to help because I don't want to insult him by saying it's not going so well. I'd rather just get to the point because that's what he did. I want to help you catch the killer. His moldy lips twist into a smile. Do you now? D'Angelo lowers his shades. For a few seconds, he sits motionless with his eyes fixed on yours. Suddenly, he raises his gun, almost making you flinch. Almost. Then he twirls it into his shoulder holster in a flashy display that definitely looks like it was practiced. A lot. In front of a mirror. Oh, he wants to do like the whole gun show. Yeah, he's really trying to be one of those classic film noir guys. Moldy lips. Yeah, Andre, I don't know if you stepped away, but he's a Nosferatu, so that's his plan. And Nosferatu, I mean, if you look back on that 1920s, the black and white movie Nosferatu, they are very physically obvious. The fact that they are vampires are very physically obvious, and they are not pretty to look at, is the point. You see the Nosferatu's lips move, but the quiet mumbling clearly isn't meant for your ears. Listening in, you're able to catch snippets of his monologue. Sure, they seem to care. What was the end game? What was their angle? Everybody's got one, even if they pretend like they don't, especially then. What the hell? Maybe this town finally got to me. Oh my gosh! He is monologuing his own film noir monologue. He really does think he is in a film noir. I love this. Yes, I'm so glad that we picked this one first. He pauses, sticks a fresh cigar between his crooked teeth. Maybe a good leap of faith is just what the doctor ordered. Are you narrating? Offering him a light, remains silent. I'm gonna offer him a light again. I'm not gonna insult him for narrating. I find that very charming, and I'm not gonna remain silent because I don't want to come across thinking that I'm better than him. As he reaches into his pocket, you flash a lit lighter before his eyes. Or maybe you could use a healthy dose of unhealthy. For a split second, he gives you a puzzled look. Then he leans over your lighter, puffing on the cig as it catches fire. A wry smile comes back to his lips. I like you, kid. You might look like a used car salesman, but there's just something about you. Tell you what, I like him. I'm so glad that we did this. I do find him oddly charming. I was just about to head back to the crime scene. Take a look around, refresh my notes. You can tag along if you want to. I could use an assistant. Someone to take notes and make wild assumptions for me to shoot down. Who knows, if you're any good, I might consider making this a long-term arrangement. Sounds good, you won't regret it, what are we waiting for? I'm gonna say, what are we waiting for? Or, sounds good. I'm gonna say, what are we waiting for? I wanna be eager. He's eager. I don't know. I find him very charming. You know, endearing, I should say. What are we waiting for? Just one more thing. You still got me at a disadvantage here. Seems like you've done some digging on me. But with you, I've barely scratched the surface. You catch my drift? Ooh, long-term arrangement. Yes, so, again, to fill you in, Sophie wants us to go out, meet people across the city, and form our own coterie, our own group of allies. So this is one of the names that she suggested was D'Angelo. Amanda finds him charming. I find him endearing. It's like, you know, like the way you find a little puppy endearing or charming. No, Kadir is my one true love, Andre, you know that, at least in these games. But I have a soft spot for film noir gumshoe type detectives. So answer me this. Kill him? No! No! So answer me this. Who was it that sent you into my neck of the woods? Or, in layman's terms, who do you work for? Sophie Langley, I'm a free agent. I'd rather keep it to myself for now. I feel like I really do think he's the one that told Kadir about us. So I think he already knows, and I think this is a test just to prove that if he can trust us or not. And you know what? If we're looking for allies, I mean, it's not like this was secretive, so I'm just going to be straight with him. Because I'm going to expect him to be straight with me. Sophie Langley. For the first time since you got here, the Nosferatu adopts a look of genuine surprise. His eyes wander for a moment, finally giving way to a crooked smile. So you're the one, huh? The fledgling the Toreador dame spared. Yeah, that would make sense. Don't think she'd appreciate you throwing her name around. Thanks for being upfront, kid. Yeah, see, I'm not gonna lie. One blink was enough for you to miss D'Angelo vanishing from his chair. Just when you're about to look around, he reappears right next to you. Up close, his smile is even more unnerving. Alright, moonlight's burning. Let's get cracking. With a certain fascination, you watch D'Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Good job, thank you, Andre. Oddly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for a bout of mumbling narration, he is most certainly a sight to behold. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There is definitely a method to his madness. Yeah, that's the thing. If you, at least in Bloodlines, if you pick a Nosferatu as your clan, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot and giving yourself a handicap, because you can't walk around on the streets like the other clans can. You have to basically go to the sewers, and that's where, you know, the more dangerous enemies are. Eventually, your leprous guide takes a sudden turn off of Van Brunt Street and into a particularly dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place. I'm visiting a friend in Michigan, so I have to go. Okay, well, thanks for stopping by. It's always good to see you, Andre, so thank you for stopping by. But yeah, go see your friend. Have fun. Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes. Aw, thank you. Thank you for saying I look lovely. I feel lovely. This is where they found him. Drained dry, not a drop of blood in him. And before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there were any bite marks. So, what can you tell me? You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline of the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera, and you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It reads, "The blood speaks," in big, crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo. The Nosferatu gives you an expectant look. Graffiti looks like a clue. Well, duh, it's a clue. How come there's no blood? You're the detective, you tell me. I'm gonna ask about the blood, because if he was drained dry, but there's no blood on the scene, that tells me he was killed somewhere else. Obviously, the graffiti is a clue, but it was spray painted, so there's no blood on the scene. Did you say the victim was drained dry? Because I don't see a trace of blood anywhere. Good eye, kid. It's the details that count. And given that the murder was committed right here, and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that the killer was Kindred, the killer used a sedative. The killer was Kindred, of course. The killer was Kindred. Bingo! Only a Kindred could drain a human this quickly, this quietly. But not just any Kindred. Take a look at that graffiti. What do you think it means? Seems desperate and someone to throw this off. The blood speaks. I don't think that sounds desperate, that sounds deliberate to me. So I'm gonna say it's meant to throw us off. Nothing, it's meant to throw us off. Now, I can see why you'd think that, but look at how crooked the letters are. Barely legible. You can't fake something like that. I guess we were supposed to pay attention that the letters were crooked. Someone was very nervous, very scared. It definitely meant something to them. Tell me, if you were to guess, which clan would you say our killer belongs to? Thin-Bloods, Wahhabians, Tremere. I know what a thin blood is, but I just want to... I don't think Sophie told us about thin bloods, but a thin blood is basically someone who doesn't have full vampire powers yet. I don't think it's a Tremere, but let me see. Psychologist with diagnosed schizophrenia. I would say Malkavian if the blood is speaking. I don't think a Tremere, from what Sophie said, would do that. Yeah, because Tremere basically... I would say Malkavian. Maybe it's a Malkavian serial killer. They're pretty nuts. The movies can be a bit playful, but there's a method to their madness. It leaves a certain aftertaste. This right here just reeks of desperation. Okay, yes, that kind of goes back to what I was saying. I might be jumping to conclusion, but my money's on the thin bloods. He pauses, spits out the mangled remains of a cigar. Shit. Looks like we're gonna have to pay a larceny visit. We didn't learn about thin bloods. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm supposed to know these things because I've... The thin blood primogen, like him, you don't sound happy. Okay, so clearly he's the thin blood primogen. Oh, that's Robert Larson. That's the guy. Okay, okay. So that's why nobody likes him at the Camarilla. It's because he's a thin blood. So he's not full vampire. Okay, that makes so much more sense. I'm gonna say you don't sound happy. Because now we know who he is. You don't sound too happy about it. It's complicated. Larson's got a neat setup for a thin blood anyway. Lives with his family. A mortal family, mind you. Even though he's a primogen, he's managed to shield them from kindred politics, and that takes some doing. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'd be doing him a favor. If it turns out one of his is violating the Masquerade, it would put him in a hell of an awkward position. And I mean, shitting upside down awkward. Love that metaphor. It's the kind of weakness the other primogen would love to exploit. His position in the council is bad as it is. He pauses for a moment and mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar. He takes a puff and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile. Alright, kid. Let's get this over with. Compared to the industrial ugliness of Red Hook, Sterling Place is quite a change of scenery. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for the things to come. This is the place. With that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking two-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of an upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially if the head of the family happens to be a vampire. So I guess he's married and has kids, I guess? Okay, kid, we gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet gloves, soft cushions. You rang, my lord? Gentle. I will say that the Nosferatu, what they lack in looks, they make up for in personality. We need to get Larson out here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like a speakeasy on raid night. Trust me. I know. Sounds like you two have some history. Let's get to it. I'm gonna say it sounds like they have some history. Because he's probably just gonna explain what the plan is even if we ask that or not. Sounds like you two have some history. Sounds about right, but that's a story for another time. Right now, let's stick to why we're here. Tell you what, how about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you handle it. You take a step back and look around the area. The lit up window seems to be a safe bet. Now it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention. His, and no one else's. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you are suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog barking. It doesn't take you long to figure out where it came from as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. Ring the doorbell, throw a small rock at the window, feeding the man walking his dog. I am not going to kill the man walking his dog. We are not that hungry. And I'm not going to ring the doorbell, so I'm going to throw a small rock at the window. Because we said we don't want to get everyone else's attention. You kneel down and pick a rock up off the lawn. One small enough to not break glass, but big enough to get someone's attention. Deftly, you chuck the rock at the window. It bounces off the glass with a quiet but audible thunk. Moments pass in silence, making you think no one got your message. Just as you start to look for another rock, you hear the window slide open. A very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck appears at the window. As soon as he notices you, his expression sours, like he just smelled something rotten. He addresses your Nosferatu partner in what could only be described as a very loud and very angry whisper. Get the fuck off my lawn, D'Angelo. You know goddamn better than to show your ugly mug around here. You glance over at D'Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. get down here, we get loud. This is important to Irving. I'm going to say this is important because, again, I don't think D'Angelo is the person that we want delivering this message. We wouldn't have bothered you if this wasn't important. Amanda, stay where you are. You wait out on the lawn, listening to Larson quietly making his way downstairs. Before long, he appears on the porch, locking the front door behind him. He motions at you to follow him off to the side of the house. There, he turns towards you. What do you want?
It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible. Bullshit. A Dustborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out here. What could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade? Desperation. The killer's been leaving messages. Whoever they are, I think they know something. Something they can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way this puzzle fits together. Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching. Trying to find a scapegoat. Getting your boss's good graces. Word gets around, D'Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for? Then help us clear your name. Figures you'd cover for one of your own. I'm gonna say then help us clear your name because that's more polite. Then help us clear your people's name. What have you got to lose? Everything. I've been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me. What if it turns out one of yours did it and you sat on your hands to protect him? You think the council won't jump on that? He looks off into the darkness, pondering his options. He lets out a heavy sigh. Look, I'll ask around. Consult my sources. If it turns out one of my own is responsible, they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is. Deal. Good. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my family. And with that, Larson retreats it to the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, the Nosferatu stops and turns towards you. Hell of a night. I don't know about you, kid, but I sure could use a drink. Something warm, in a tall, sweaty glass. But first, let me tally your score. Let's see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking's cheap. Bullets, not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own, but hey, we can't all be professionals. Finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Discretion is what separates a private dick from just any old dick. All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it get to your head. I'll be in touch. Let you know if I hear from Larson. Be ready to meet me at the office. He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back toward you. And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one. You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. A letter's been slipped under the door in a cream-colored, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned, rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is short and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There is no other information. It looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. Let's see what it might be. Oh, this is Benoit. Faith and Myth, Part 1. You've received an invitation to meet a mysterious someone at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Oh, right. This is one where... Benoit the Insufferable. You haven't been to a church since you became a vampire, or kindred as the euphemism goes. You've had to focus on concrete, practical things like survival and feeding. You've learned the essentials of the vampire experience, but you don't really have a clear idea of what it all means. The Cathedral of St. John the Divine is a New York landmark. You've been inside once before when you were much younger. You marveled at its Gothic facade. Looking at it now from across the street, it feels ominous. The prospect of an anonymous invitation to a secret meeting is a worrying one, but the venue is well chosen. It's hard to imagine a violent attack in a place like this, with eyes everywhere. You enter the cathedral discreetly. You've quickly learned this is an essential skill for a vampire, how to move without anyone noticing you. The full force of the cathedral's architecture hits you as you walk between the pews. If the architect means to create a feeling of being small in the face of God's glory, mission accomplished. Based on the note, you're assuming that whoever you're meeting is somewhere in the front. As you step closer to the high altar, it feels as if something is dragging at your feet, as if the stone beneath you resisted your movement. As a superstition, vampires are satanic creatures. Does God still listen to you? I'm not going to try to be dismissive, but I'm also not going to say I'm satanic, because I'm just going to say, does God still listen to you? It's been a long time since you prayed. You wondered whether God listens to creatures like you. Fatalistically, you take a step and then another. You're not sure if your God is present in this cathedral, but perhaps it doesn't matter. What you feel is real enough. There's an old man sitting in the front. You see only the back of his head, bowed down in silent prayer. Your footsteps echo on the floor, and he turns to look at you. You can't take your eyes off him. He's tall, dignified, white hair, balding, a few strands escaping to the sides. He's wearing glasses and a simple clerical clothing. I can't speak today. His eyes are warm and pale, too kind for someone like you. Something is wrong. You feel heavy, as if a giant hand was pressing you down. The skin on your face is burning. Perhaps unconsciously, you expected something like this, as a vampire walking into a cathedral, only it's not the building or God making you feel like you're burning alive. It's the man, the priest. Welcome, my child. The priest's tone is kind, but the rising panic inside is telling you that kindness is not for the likes of you. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna try to confront the priest. The only way to understand these painful feelings is to push forward and confront the priest. As you step closer to the priest, panic rises inside you. The emotions are hard to control. Fear, anger, pain, all trying to wrestle you in different directions, away. Can I help you? Are you okay? The priest talks to you like you would a lost vagrant who has chosen to enter the house of God. How are you doing this? Please, it hurts. I'm sorry, Father. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry? I mean, I'm not going to bring my own I'm not going to talk about my own religious beliefs, but that feels like the right answer, at least the better one. I'm sorry, Father. I'm so sorry. It's all right. Do you wish to pray? It's simply too much. You mutter something incoherent in reply. You don't sound like a vampire, an undead being made powerful by immortal blood. You're just another sad, confused, lost soul. You turn around and stagger away, only feeling like yourself once you're back on the street outside. You stand on the sidewalk, confused and scared. No enemies seem to be attacking you. The priest didn't follow you. The night air is wet with the smells of the city, the same as every night. How did it feel? You look at the man speaking to you. He's well-dressed, if a little archaic, dark-haired, handsome, like a character from an old movie. He smiles as if he knows something you don't. You glance around. There are people in the street. You don't appear to be in immediate danger. Who the fuck are you? Did you do this to me? Why does it hurt so much? Yeah, Ventrus, they're more polite. I think the third option is just the most polite one, so that's what I'm going to ask. Why does it hurt so much? That's the question I wanted to talk to you about. Let me introduce myself. My name is Benoit Seagal. We share many things in common, even if you don't know me. Benoit offers his hand to you. I'm gonna shake it, because again, Ventries are polite. It's part of the dignity thing. Benoit's handshake is firm and dry. He looks at you intently, as if trying to find something in your eyes. Would you mind sitting with me for a moment? Benoit points to a park bench nearby, in darkness because of a broken streetlight. Wary, you decide to follow him. Only an enemy totally unconcerned with the masquerade would attack you here. Benoit sits down and you follow suit. For a moment, you both contemplate the cathedral in silence. I know how it feels, what you just felt. I've experienced it myself, many times. For a moment, you consider how to respond. It's clear Benoit sent the invitation to come here and orchestrated this little setup. Yeah, he's a dick. I think he's just insufferable. Why did you invite me? Did you try to get me killed? I feel like punching you. Yeah, but again, I am Clan Ventru, so I'm going to try to be polite and just say, why did you invite me? What's the point? Why did you go to the trouble of getting me here? We share a connection, you and I. I'll explain it later. But right now, the important thing is that it's so much easier to show than to tell. I wanted you to meet Father Anthony, or see him, experience him. Did you wonder why it felt like that? Priest, it is a supernatural power, does it matter? I mean, it was the priest. At first I thought it was because I was in a church, but then I realized it came from him, the priest. I think you're right. It does come from him. It's his faith that makes you feel like that. He's safe in his belief while you are one of the damned. Do you ever wonder, what's the role of a vampire in God's creation? You stop to think. Of course you've wondered what this is all about. Whether it's about God or nature, you don't really know what being a vampire means. That's the trouble with the Masquerade. A human faced with a human problem can go online and find something that helps. You can't. The Masquerade means that everything there is to know about your condition is secret, hidden away. You're left relying on the unreliable opinions of people like Benoit. Suddenly, Benoit takes your hand and presses it against his chest. As he stares into your eyes, you feel his heart stop. Oh, was it beating? No. My heart no longer beats, yet I move. I talk. Is that how God intended us to be? Natural explanation. No, it can't be. Let me go. I'm not going to get into a debate with him. I think just saying there's a natural explanation is the best thing. Because again, he can get kind of preachy, and I don't really want to drag this conversation out longer than it has to be. Whoa, I don't believe in the supernatural. There's a natural explanation for all this. We just don't know it. Maybe there is. I don't know either. But I know that Father Anthony's faith is real. Sometimes I'm skeptical too, but in Father Anthony's presence, I know faith is real. I know it because it hurts so much. But perhaps you have questions about faith and our kind. Yes, what are we? How do you know any of the stories are true? Perhaps we are divine, not damned. I don't know what stories they're talking about, and I don't think they're divine or not damned to that. No. Yes, what are we? Yes, what are we? There is the usual story, which most of us believed, especially before modern times. Cain was the first murderer. As punishment, God cursed him to walk in darkness and carry his mark. Cain passed his curse as he drank the blood of the living, and thus we were born. God's curse passed on to someone new with each embrace. Maybe it's true. We all have our lineages, our sires and the sires of our sires. If you trace those lineages all the way to the top, you find Cain, the original vampire. I suppose God is cruel. The curse perpetuates itself, leading to new evils. It's just crazy vampire stories. Did I just come here just to talk about religion? This is a lot to take in. I feel like the first two are kind of rude, and again, I want to be polite because that's what Clan Ventru does, so I'm going to say that's a lot to take in. This is a lot to take in. All these myths. Hard to know what to believe. I know it's overwhelming. It was for me when I first met Father Anthony. I know there are others like him whose faith shines like a beacon. Priests, old ladies, children. Anyone can have that conviction inside them. I have to go. This is too much. I have to pray for guidance. I'm going to say I have to go. I want to cut this conversation short. Because he gets preachy and he just doesn't cut to the point as quickly as I'd like. I have to go. I can't concentrate when I know the priest is still inside. Benoit nods patiently. Let's meet again in a few nights, here at the cathedral. We can talk more after you've thought it through. You leave Benoit sitting in the shadow of the cathedral, contemplating what lies within. It would be easier to ignore his words without the reality of what you've experienced. Father Anthony was holy. You know it to be true, but what does that mean? Okay, it's been a while since you're from D'Angelo. I think I'm gonna get the boys out of the way, so I'm gonna go talk to Agathon. You arrive at the address given to you by Sophie, a small bookstore smack dab in the middle of Broadway of all places. What really catches you off guard, though, is the store's display. From what you've heard about the Tremere, they are infamous for their ties to the occult and the mystical. And yet now, looking at the oddball collection of items in the display window, it all feels borderline satirical. The books here cover everything from Ayurvedic practices and homeopathy to wellness and self-motivation. The vaguely amusing juxtapositions don't end there either. You notice a copy of Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible tucked behind a cheap smiling Buddha. A scientific journal on hematology sits next to a teen-oriented pamphlet on the blood-type personality theory. A number of religious and quasi-religious symbols, lockets, pins, and various emblazoned paraphernalia are haphazardly strewn across the display and between the tomes. Before you even open the door, you can smell the burning incense and hear the corny Far East-tinged music seeping through the crackling speaker mounted above the entrance. It's much more quaint than you expected from what Sophie told you about the so-called warlocks. It doesn't look like they have much interest in impressing outsiders. Then again, if there's anything you've learned these past few nights, it's that appearances can be deceiving. At this time of night, the shop appears to be closed. Regardless, you ring the bell. You hear someone shuffling around inside. A brief moment later, the latch slides and the door is pushed open just a few inches. A tired-looking blonde in loose clothes appears in the crack. She seems confused, like you just woke her up. She lets out a yawn, scratching at her tattooed neck. Finally, she squints in your general direction. Her pierced lip curves into an awkward smile. It's Agathon in. I'm here for occult advice. Got anything on vampires? I feel like if you just are blunt, I don't think someone's going to respond to that, so I'm going to say I'm here for occult advice. Hi, I'm here about a mystical problem. I need some occult advice, you could say. The girl gives you a suspicious look over, but opens the door. She takes a few steps back, and you hear footsteps coming from behind a floral curtain that covers the back door. A bespectacled, smart-looking woman emerges and looks straight at you. Oh, Aisling! Come in and follow me. Just don't touch anything, please. You follow her through the store. Inside, as expected, the stuffy air smells of sandalwood, frankincense, and a dozen other aromas. The woman leads you behind the curtain and through the back door onto a rickety staircase. A flight of steps take you up to the second story. You instantly notice the change in decor, as the tacky New Age bookstore gives way to something resembling a cross between a library and a workshop. The smell in here is strong, too, but much more layered. You're not sure what to make of it at first, but with each whiff, it becomes apparent. Blood. The aroma, though subtle at first, soon becomes overpowering. It takes you a moment to adapt and focus. I don't think you know who you're speaking with, so an introduction is in order. My name is Aisling Sturbridge, and I am the High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs. You are Amanda, correct? I have to say, you're lucky the ward outside the building is only there for notifications tonight. Otherwise, it would have been quite unpleasant. So, that occult advice line was cute, but unless you have something important, and I do mean important, to relay, I'm afraid I don't have a lot of time to spare. High Regent sounds important. How do you know who I am. Hiding above a bookstore, really. Okay, the first and the third one sound a little snarky, so I'm just going to say, how do you know who I am? Wait, how do you know who I am? Well, for one thing, knowing who's who in this city is one of my duties as High Regent, but more importantly, you've been on the mind of many a kindred since Langley took you in. It's quite a precedent, as I'm sure you know, a first under Prince Panhard, and for Sophie to be the one to do it. Curiouser and curiouser. Still, I'm sure you haven't come here to look for dirt on your sire. That would be unwise. Sophie mentioned Agathon to me. I was expecting to find Agathon here. I good things about Agathon. I'm going to say I'm expecting to find Agathon. Just because, I mean, I think the third one is, she'll think we're bullshitting her, and this first one, I'm not sure. I don't like that one as much as the second. I didn't expect to meet you here. I came to find Agathon and talk to him about working together. Yeah, that's a bit more direct. I like it. As you might have gathered, he is busy at the moment. So am I, in fact. So unless there's anything else... Suddenly, a man enters from a side room. He doesn't even look at you, lost in his own thoughts. I have it, Aisling. I think I know how to find it. He catches himself as he notices you. His face turns sour. A visitor? Yes, we were just discussing you, in fact. Is that so? Sophie Langley recommended to you. I'm looking for allies. Let me introduce myself. I'm going to say let me introduce myself. Because I feel like just saying, hey, I want you to be my ally is kind of... I don't know. I don't think that comes across the right way. Let me introduce myself. My name is Amanda. I've been told you might be interested in teaming up. Okay, that's not the way I would phrase it, but you know, I'll take it. Teaming up? He seems very confused by the notion. What for? I could assist you in your work for the company. What else? I could use your knowledge. I'll say I could assist you in your work just because that seems a bit more quid pro quo than the other two, and I don't think he's... I mean, he just seems kind of socially awkward, doesn't he? I could assist you in your work. I can be quite helpful, knowing I can count on someone to return the favor. Is that right? He seems to consider it, then turns to Aisling. Hi, Regent. May I ask your advice on this? She looks you over, as if judging your worth. It takes her just long enough to make you feel uncomfortable. When she takes her eyes off you, she addresses Agathon. Do you feel like you need assistance in your task, my child? I'm confident I can do it on my own. He pauses, hesitating for a second. But I do believe it is important enough to warrant outside help, even if only for a single night. Another brief moment of hesitation. Of course, the details would remain between you and I, sire. Agreed, on all points. Why don't you start by giving our intern here a brief explanation of what it is you're after? Agathon gives Aisling a hesitant look, but the woman nods approvingly. He's such a little... He's a little lapdog. That's the more polite way of putting what I was going to say. Encouraged, he turns towards you. A member of our clan disappeared without a trace a handful of nights ago. While the High Regent investigates if any foul play was involved, I've been tasked with recovering her research notes. If there is anything left to recover, that is. I may have an idea of where to start looking, and I suppose this is where you come in. If you truly wish to help, I could use your assistance tonight. Right now, in fact. Given the time we've just wasted on idle chatter, I should leave immediately. What research? Who's the missing person? What's the rush? Well, they did say they were going to keep the details between them, so I'm going to ask who the missing person is, but I'm not going to question how urgent it is. And the missing kindred, who is she? A single glance at Aisling is enough. You can tell you're not getting an answer, at least for now. We're after her research. That's what you should focus on. These people aren't in the habit of making things simple. Facing layers upon layers of secrecy, you can only hope that what lies beneath is the real deal. I'm heading out. Are you coming or not? Shall I join you? more info before I decide on second thought not interested. I'm gonna just go. He's not. Sure, I'll join you. Very well. He gives Aisling a slight bow. High Regent, with your permission. Oh my god, he is such a little lapdog. She nods. Before you go, however, Amanda, defer to Agathon in all things. Our clan values obedience above everything else. Prove you can follow, and this might turn into a mutually beneficial relationship. Okay, I guess that explains why he's a little Okay, he's a little bitch. I'm gonna say he's a little bitch. Yeah, that explains it then. I will await his return and his report. Good luck, my child. Agathon bows again and heads out, urging you to follow. The High Regent watches you leave. Outside, Agathon leads you to his car. It's almost funny seeing him get behind a wheel. Somehow you'd expect a more mystical means of transportation. Oh god, his eyes. Yeah, it's not as inviting as when Katir is driving. You drive south, heading to the Lower East Side. Agathon seems lost in thought. Either that or he's a very careful driver. Either way, several minutes pass in silence. Oh, I see what they did. Yeah, they used the exact same animation that they did for Kadir. They just replaced Agathon's eyes in the windshield. So where are we going? So the High Regent is your sire. Remain quiet. Let's ask where we're going, because I don't think he's going to talk too much. Williamsburg. There's a place there that our missing colleague frequented. He seems to be thinking of the right words before he decides to address you again. Let me ask you something. Why me? There are likely a couple hundred of us kindred in New York, yet you seek me out specifically. Why? You spoke highly of you. You sound interesting. Don't know, just gave it a shot. I think flattery might work a little bit, so if we say Sophie spoke highly, you sound interesting. I don't think he'd be impressed with that. Obviously, don't know, just gave it a shot. That means that we don't know what the fuck we're doing, so I'm gonna say that. For one, Sophie spoke highly of you. She gave me a short list of people to meet. You were on it. I see. Once more, he grows silent. You're unsure whether to continue prying as your driver seems to disappear into his thoughts. You drive into Williamsburg and stop by a fancy-looking building. We're here. There's a restaurant on the top floor. You wanted to help, so here's your chance. I need you to get us inside the VIP lobby. You recognize the place. It's where you were embraced a mere few nights back. Funny how this restaurant is apparently a vampire magnet. Once we're in, I need about half an hour of focus and some space. It'll be up to you to keep the attention away from the room. Can you do it? He doesn't wait for an answer and points to the front door. Go ahead, I'm right behind you. The two of you take the elevator up to the restaurant. The door opens and you see that there are only a few guests left, sitting at their tables. An important-looking staff member approaches you. Oh, that's the guy that Julia beat the shit out of. I grab him by the back of his head and smash it down onto the bar, then throw him onto the small but stout coffee table nearby. I take out a soup ladle from the fancy kettle it was served in and just smack the guy around. It doesn't look nice, and lasts way longer than it needs to. Good evening. I'm very sorry, but the restaurant is closing for the night. I can make a reservation for next week if you wish. For location scouting, I'm the special kind of client. I'm gonna dominate. I think Agathon would like that. Oh, but we insist. You will let us into the VIP lobby and stay there for as long as we like. But, of course. Please, come in. You walk in, trying to look casual, and make your way towards the VIP lobby. You step inside and close the door behind you. This is a familiar sight. Same place where you had your last meal as a mortal. Strange. You should feel something, but the lavishly decorated room looks almost plain to you. Your companion looks at you with something akin to admiration, or at least that's how you choose to interpret the slight change in his usual somber facade. Not bad. Not bad at all. He inspects the room. It's unusually cold, and Agathon soon discovers why. Looking behind the curtain, a window hangs open. The handle and lock look like they've been dissolved, as if with acid. God damn it, Juno. Oh, Juno! That's his ex-girlfriend. That'll be really interesting to see. It's with the window. Who's Juno? Looks like she's gone. I'm gonna say who's Juno. Who's Juno? How about I tell you some other time? He takes a frantic look around the room. This changes things. Keep an eye on the door. I'll need some time. Half an hour, at the very least. Nobody disturbs me. Understand? He hastily pushes a couch and some potted plants out of the way, moves a bar stool, and takes out a curved knife. Cutting into his own arm, he lets some of his blood drip onto the wooden floor. It's pretty fucked up the way his flesh oozes the deep, red, thick vitae. In life, you'd have found it stomach-churning, but right now you feel weirdly turned on by the sight. What follows is more disturbing yet. With one hand, he sheathes the knife and seals the wound. With the other, he smears the blood around him while muttering some weird chant. It sounds vaguely Latin, but you're pretty sure it isn't. It's all more than a little disconcerting. But he seems to know what he's doing. A few moments later, the circle starts glowing faintly as thin whiffs of smoke surround Agathon. He sits down in the middle, legs crossed, eyes closed. Minutes pass. Agathon's face twitches from time to time, and his head turns every now and then, as if he was looking around or listening in on a conversation. Smoke grows thicker, forming a veil around the mage. You expected something more flashy, but it's still a sight to behold. You wonder what the point of it is, but refrain from asking. It's probably best to let Agathon do his thing. For close to 30 minutes, you're left to your own devices. Suddenly, the door swings open and the manager storms in, ready to raise hell. The initial haze must have worn off quicker than usual. Don't argue with him. Buy time. Well, we're supposed to buy time, so yeah. You start a shouting match with the manager. He seems almost happy to oblige. You can tell he's dealt with problematic customers before. You go back and forth for a while until his face becomes red and his voice grows hoarse. At some point, he looks just about ready to throw the first punch. That's when Agathon finally gets up off the floor. He shakes his head and casually walks over to the sofa, picking up something from between the cracks in the upholstery. We're done here. Let's go. Who the hell do you think you are? Get out of my restaurant this instant! Not wanting to make the situation any worse, you walk out sheepishly. The manager follows you all the way to the elevator, shouting and cursing. Agathon doesn't seem particularly fazed by any of this. The restaurant staff throw you some curious glances as you walk towards the elevator, but wisely decide not to bother you. The ride down feels tense. You half expect to see a police car waiting outside. Agathon only seems to relax once you're back in his car. He starts the engine and takes a right at the Continental Army Plaza, back onto the bridge towards Manhattan. You're just about to say something, but Agathon beats you to it. That went better than I expected, all things considered. It might have been a trick of the light, but you're pretty sure you just saw a smile. I'm used to working alone, but what I'm dealing with right now, it might require some more assistance. And you seem capable enough. Thanks, I guess. Found what you came for. I can do more, you know. I'm not going to do the third one. I don't think he's impressed by us bragging, so I'm going to ask him what he's come for, because that's what's important to him. So I'm guessing you found what you came for. Sort of. Enough to continue the search at any rate. That seems to deplete his social battery for the night. You drive the rest of the way in silence. It doesn't take you long to reach the warlock's hideout. Agathon weighs at you absent-mindedly, once again lost in his thoughts. Hopelessly so. One of these nights, you should probably take him up on his offer. Who knows? If you gain his trust, maybe you can actually break through his stoic facade and meet the man underneath. The hunger calls to you. The city's skyscrapers, the seemingly never-ending sprawl of the boroughs. It's all a prison. You need to get out. You need to take back control over your life this instant. Okay. Real quick. This is a replay. This is a second file because the original file got corrupted. So this is probably the warning that we get when we haven't fed. So we definitely need to find someone. But fortunately, we're going to go see Tamika next. We don't have this problem in the original playthrough. So, I mean, I was going to go feed again once in the original playthrough anyway. But yeah, on that note, it continues. I thought we were going to go rest. The memory of your sire's frosty blue eyes mocks you, tempts you to show your dominance, to prove you have the guts to take what you want. Feeding. That's just the thing. Coaxing, no, ordering a mortal to bend to your will, drinking deep from their lifeblood. Faces pass you by. While some look more ravishing than others, any would do right now. You compose yourself, your rational mind fearing a blatant breach of the masquerade's temporary hold over the beast and its compulsions. Calming yourself is a small victory in and of itself. This semblance of command will have to do for now, but it won't last. You need to quench this hunger before it overtakes you and makes you lose control. Okay, so on that note, again, this is a second file because I did have to replay because the remainder of the first playthrough was corrupted. So we won't have this problem next time, but I was going to go feed anyway. Or I was hoping that we would feed again when we go see Tamika next time. But we'll just see how this all plays out. It was still cool to actually see that warning and the consequences. But yeah, if you like this video, give us a like, hit thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. And I'm Amanda, and we will see you guys next week. Bye!